Say again, please?
Houston, we have a problem.
So, brace yourselves for Genesis, because if you think Mroad was bad enough, pucker up, Buttercup, it is about to go down. So, Mroad was nothing more than a measly tornado compared to what is coming. And you don't have to worry about Mroad anymore because Mroad has been suspended, finished, discontinued, or better yet, the proper term was suspended until further notice. We killed it, we buried it 6 feet under out back. You don't have to worry about it any longer. However, we have a bigger storm brewing, okay? And you could say that MHS Genesis is like equivalent to a Category 5 hurricane that is life-altering, life-destroying system that has already unveiled itself. If you don't know what Mroad was, which already wreaked havoc across the nation, all right? It literally brought applicants and the recruiting commands across this great nation down to its knees. Breaking so many hearts and dreams, okay? So, it started in December 1st and was suspended about mid-February, and it provided MEPS, your military entrance processing station, the ability to have the view-only access to your prescription history for the past 7 years. Luckily, that was suspended. We could speculate to why it was suspended, but it doesn't matter because something far worse is coming our way. So although Mroad is suspended, consider this like the eye of the storm. So although we have a temporary relief, all right, you still got the second half of the storm to live through. I don't know exactly how Genesis is going to impact recruiting across the country, but time will tell. That's all we have, time. And just like anything, you have pros and cons to everything. In this video, I will be breaking down to you what is Genesis, how does it work, what is the timeline, and my final thoughts on Genesis. I will also be disclosing some major updates to the medical exam at MEPS that I don't agree with, but they have a viable solution to the big thing that I'm concerned with as a recruiter and for those potential applicants processing. But make sure you stay for the entire video so that you can stay well informed. So stay tuned. Here we go! What's up, everybody? Welcome back here to TEAM SWARTZ, and if this is your first time here, welcome to my channel. Here I post a ton of Army basic training tips, recruiting, and other Army related videos, to include going live weekly to address your most desired concerns and questions. And with that being said, my name is Lewis, your local New York Army National Guard's full-time recruiter and part-time drill sergeant, but I come on here on my free time and weekends to create content around the enlistment process into the United States Army and to help you get ready both mentally and physically for Army basic training. So let's get started. What is MHS Genesis, you ask? Well, MHS stands for Military Health System, and Genesis is a system that was put in place to provide MEPS, CMOs, and medical staff ability to see your medical records. The following information, which I will share with you, is the latest and greatest that was published on 11 February of 2022 that I literally got just a few days ago. This is the most updated version of Genesis that I will be sharing with you in this video. Pre-screen and applicant registration in the MHS Genesis is a new way for pre-screening new applicants processing into the United States military. It is designed to go from a paper pre-screening process to a paperless screening process and to centralize the medical systems throughout DoD, Department of Defense. This video will be primarily for new recruits or future applicants processing and joining the military. How does MHS Genesis work? I'm glad you asked. Each applicant that decides to process to become a service member in the United States military will be registered into the MHS Genesis system. Thus, making the submission of the applicant pre-screened packet is the start of the applicant's EHR at MEPS. Now, I couldn't figure out or find exactly what EHR stands for in the resource that I have, but my intellectual guess is Enlisted Health Record. And a pre-screened packet consists of several different forms, which I will put on the screen for you right now. which is your medical history report, your page 5 of the parental consent form for those of you joining at 17 years old, the Privacy Act statement, the drug, alcohol, and HIV acknowledgement forms, the authorization for medical records release form, which is essentially you giving MEPS permission to pull your medical record, thus being in good graces with the HIPAA laws, right? So trust me, someone's gonna be in the comment section saying, they can't do that, they're violating HIPAA. Well, you gotta sign the form to release your medical records. And you have two choices. You either sign it and try to join, or don't sign it and not join. The choice is yours. So with this new system, MHS Genesis, what does the timeline look like to process at a healthy or not so busy MEPS? Because if you're at a busier and a larger MEPS, this timeline is probably gonna take you a bit longer, unfortunately. So you will have a 24-hour turnaround for your records to be reviewed and determined if you have minimal medical history. However, if you have significant medical history, it could take up to 5 days for your record to get reviewed and determined from there. And if you have a significant complex medical history, that could take up to 10 days. But at best case scenario, MEPS is promising us that they will give you a determination one way or the other within 10 business days, not including the weekends. Note! Resubmissions or issues identified or that may arise throughout the pre-screening process is going to reset that timeline process. Each pre-screening packet will be reviewed and determined again within 10 days, God willing, right? With the goal and intent of receiving a PA, process authorized, meaning you can continue to do your medical and continue with the process of enlisting. So if everything is annotated on the DD Form 2807-2, the applicant's medical history report that the recruiter will fill out and complete with the applicant, and it shows up and is visible in the MHS Genesis system, leveraging both HIE and the Epic software systems. Let me break that down just a little bit further, just so you have a basis of understanding. HIE, H-I-E, is the health insurance exchange system, along with the Epic software system, which is the electronic medical record keeping software system that is HIPAA compliant. Pretty much almost all of the hospitals across the country in the United States leverages this software program to upload your medical records to have a centralized database. Going back to what I was saying, if you disclose everything on the 2807 and it is visible in MHS Genesis and there's nothing different and you are otherwise eligible to join, you will get a PA, process authorized, which is what you're looking for. However, if an applicant self-discloses something on the 2807-2 but does not reflect or is not visible in the MHS Genesis system, your process will take a little bit longer and records must be sourced by the applicant and or the recruiter of the applicant processing, which is going to delay and prolong your MEPS processing. In that case, your packet, your pre-screening packet will receive an RJ, return justified. The burden of proof is always on the applicant. Now, the recruiter, if they have time and the means and the ability to assist and facilitate that search with you, then we can definitely do that, but the burden of proof is always on the applicant. However, this Genesis system is going to help alleviate that. The resubmission will restart your timeline as previously described, unfortunately. So when does MHS Genesis begin? Well, it has already started. It began yesterday because today is the 25th. It had a soft rollout or soft go live as of 24 February of 2022 with a hard go live, hard rollout that will include all the different MEPS and RPSs across the country by March 10th of 2022. And RPS, I could not specifically find the definition of the acronym, but knowing what I've seen, RPS in my intellectual opinion means Reception Processing Sites, RPS. And that has already been determined, as far as I know, 4 locations, 3 I know for sure, the other one I don't know the name of it specifically, but that includes Fort Benning, Georgia, Fort Jackson, South Carolina, Parris Island for the Marine Corps, and a Navy or Naval boot camp somewhere located in California. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see what's gonna happen there. So, whew. So how is this going to impact the recruiters and their applicants alike? And you have to understand that US MEPCOM, or AKA MEPS, is going to have view-only access to the authoritative health data so they can make a well-informed qualification decision on the potential applicants looking to process into the United States military. Additionally, it's going to impact recruiters and applicants because if an applicant does not disclose a medical condition or medical history that is identified by using MHS, then that's going to significantly slow down the process of the applicant because now we're gonna have to source additional information, conduct medical consultations, and so on and so forth, making it more difficult to get in. Now, another way this can impact an applicant / recruiter is if an applicant discloses a medical condition or history that does not show up in the MHS Genesis system, then both the recruiter, more so the applicant, the burden of proof will need to be sourced, and your recruiter can help facilitate that, but the burden of proof is on the applicant to square yourself away and clear yourself of this medical condition that you disclosed that did not populate into the system. So Genesis provides MEPS access to those records to make a determination from there. You do not have to source anything as long as they can see it in Genesis. However, if you, again, just like I just said, you disclose something that's not in Genesis, then we need to source the proper medical documentation to back up what it is that you said to make a determination if you are otherwise eligible to join or prompt you for a medical waiver from there. So you're probably asking yourself, how likely is my information going to be in this MHS Genesis system? So about 70% of the population is going to be in this system, because for those of you that are processing through hospitals or doctor's offices where their technology is up to par and pretty much advanced, then you're more than likely going to be in the system. Now, if you're in a rural area or maybe processed for medical procedures outside of the United States, then you're going to be part of that 30% that is not going to be in the system, or maybe intermittently or very little to none, right? So just keep that in mind, that more than likely your stuff is going to be in the system. So what is a key benefit of Genesis is, I mean, if you've never requested medical records before, just so you understand, most hospitals and clinics and such, right, will hold records physically for like the last 3 years, and after that, those physical records will get stored into an off-site storage facility, which often will be saved for up to 10 years. After that, they purge their storage. And it could take an applicant and a recruiter to request your records. That could take up to 2 months or longer before we finally receive those medical records. So the benefit is if your information is in fact in the MHS Genesis system, then the recruiter and the applicant doesn't have to go hunt down and request your medical records. They have visibility and can make a determination from there on what the next step is for you. But if we have to physically go and get them because you're not in this system, like we just said, then that's windshield time, right? Driving to all these different places, hand jamming signatures to release your records and such is time consuming. So what are my thoughts about Genesis at this time? I think that Genesis is kind of like a double-edged sword. There are some pros and cons to everything, right? So some of the pros that I could think of is it is literally going to be saving the government in the United States a lot of money, because one, it's going to prevent unnecessary applicants that are not otherwise eligible to join not go through the process and waste valuable funds processing your blood work, the doctors, the medical staff, and all the other expenses that go into that, right? To include the hotel stay, everything that is funded through MEPS and DOD. So that's number one thing, and probably why this is going to exist. Not to mention that it is going to prevent unnecessary disability claims after you get out of the military, either identified during your service because you lied, right? Or at the end of the service and it was never disclosed, there was no record of it, so on and so forth. And now the government's paying you, right? Because when you join the military, whatever condition you're in at the time of enlistment, if you're anything less than that at the time that you leave the military or the government is going to compensate you for the rest of your life. And that is costly. So on a positive note on Genesis, as previously described, because of the high and epic software systems in place that are leveraging through the MHS Genesis program, is going to afford the opportunity for applicants to have their record fully visible so they don't have to source anything on their own as long as it's in the system, and basically streamline their enlistment process. Right? Now, as a regular normal service member, this is going to centralize everything through the MHS Genesis portal that you can sign up for. You have full access to all your medical records. It's easier access, and it's just going to streamline and centralize everything rather than leveraging different multiple platforms. So everything's going to be on one little platform to make it happen. The other pro is you don't have to source any records if it shows up in MHS Genesis as previously described. So that is a huge benefit. One of the main goals and pros to this whole thing is to go paperless, save some trees, right? Be eco-friendly and streamline the process. And again, a central location to find all of your medical records. You can make appointments, you can schedule all those things all through this MHS Genesis portal. So what are some of the cons to Genesis? And there's some major ones. The top two are going to be for those applicants that would normally probably withhold certain medical history is going to get exposed, denied, or prolong the process and forced to do it the right way. Now, the other biggest con that I'm going to feel really sorry for is the soldiers that have already processed, enlisted, and signed their contract, got through MEPS, get to the training sites at the reception battalions to have them run the Genesis and identify their medical history, and at that point be processed for a general discharge for fraudulent enlistment for withholding medical history throughout their enlistment process. Whether your recruiter told you to lie, whether you didn't say anything to your recruiter at all just to get in, what have you, you're going to get discharged and chapter out of the military for fraudulent enlistment. Again, a general discharge under honorable conditions for fraudulent enlistment with a possible re-enlistment code of an RE3, re-enlistment code 3. That would be my educational guess of what's going to happen moving forward. So when this finally unveils, I forecast a lot of potential discharges. Now, if you get through the reception sites prior to this rolling out, you're probably gonna be in the clear for now. If you get there and Genesis is already there, you're more than likely going to get exposed, unfortunately, and dealt with from there. All right, you've been warned. May the man upstairs, whatever you believe in, helps you out if this impacts you. So for healthy individuals and for normal service members that don't have any issues, I see Genesis being a great program to have in place. But I do see a lot of dreams, a lot more dreams being crushed, unfortunately. And I also see recruiting efforts being significantly impacted negatively with this new system, very similar to Mroad. But again, Genesis is a DoD, Department of Defense program. This is seriously going to impact production, and as a result of having the system in place, exposing applicants and sometimes maybe some recruiters, this has probably been giving DoD in the Pentagon a skewed expectation of what recruitment efforts are really like. All right, stick with me for a second. So previously, before this program, there was no way really to fact check anything unless the doctor identified it during the medical exam, or the applicant self-admitted a medical history, right? So DoD, Department of Defense, and the Pentagon have very strict end strength goals to maintain a healthy military to protect the United States against all the enemies of the world, right? So with that being said, with this system in place, this is going to literally, in my opinion, because I've already seen it with Mroad, at the very minimum, decrease production by at least 50%. And as a residual effect to this is going to make toxic leaders even more toxic. I've already survived being a recruiter going through like Afghanistan and Iraq, right? This is like gonna be by far the worst that a recruiter who's currently recruiting is ever going to experience. We were already dealing with COVID, then the COVID vaccines, deterring people from joining. Then obviously Mroad hit, and now Genesis, and simultaneously the world is looking a little froggy with the Ukraine stuff that's going on, right? So there's a lot of different variables out there that could potentially sway a potential applicant's decision to join. And now implementing this program or anything similar to it is going to decrease production immensely. And I don't feel that any component of the Army or any branch of the military is going to have any possibility of hitting the end strength goals at the end of this fiscal year. In the military, we go by fiscal year, October through September. And as a result, that is gonna have some residual effects as well, right? So for example, New York is considered a large state by the amount of soldiers that are a part of the New York Army National Guard. If we are unable to retain soldiers into the New York Army National Guard or enlist enough to fill up the back door for retirees, people that finish the contract, for whatever their various reasons for leaving, right? If we can't out-recruit our losses, right, because of Genesis or anything else, if we decrease our end strength by a certain number, right, that's going to make us transition from a large state to a medium state. And when that happens, the state is going to receive less funding from the United States government to maintain our force, right? Because why we're going to pay you full rate for a large state if you're a medium-sized state, right? So that's going to impact funding and other pots of money from there, to include branches of services. So whatever that number is, if you're a large force and now you're a step below that, then the government doesn't have to give DOD a certain dollar amount to sustain and maintain their force, right? So it's gonna have all kinds of residual impacts, unfortunately. And I'm really curious to see how this is gonna pan out, how long Genesis is going to last, if it does. And I don't think it's going anywhere because of the vision and how I see the website is for current service members and how they want it rather. So I don't know exactly how this is gonna pan out, but time will tell. I really hope that it works out in the end for everyone involved, because it's gonna get bad. So unlike Mroad, which is a US MEPCOM policy, right? This is a DoD directed program that is in place, and we cannot as easily bow out of that system. So unless DoD decides that they need to get rid of it because it's not helping production, we'll see. So I guess we'll see. My advice to a potential applicant joining is do it the right way. I mean, now you have no other choice, but you should always do it the right way, right? It's gonna prolong the process, and stay tuned for future videos on how you could overcome certain medical issues, right? There are some things that clear cut, no waivers authorized, but there are some things that could qualify for waivers, and there are certain things that you can do for those certain types of conditions that can improve a more favorable outcome or determination on joining. So stay tuned for those future videos. So if you are a recruiter and you made it this far into the video, I empathize with you, all right? Stay resilient. We're gonna have to, embrace this horrific storm that is about to come. I really don't know how this is gonna pan out, how long it's gonna be, if it's gonna be here forever, but this is gonna be one hell of a storm that is probably by far the worst thing that I've had to deal with as a recruiter in my 17 plus years of recruiting. So stay safe, be resilient, take care of your family. The Army, as much as they say or check in the box that they care about your family and all that stuff, they in recruiting, it's all about the number, unfortunately. Yeah, I'll be blunt and I'm gonna say it and you'll agree with me, right? All they really care about is the number. If you're producing, hey, you're awesome, you're great, the greatest thing since sliced bread. But as soon as your production goes down and you're behind mission, you're a piece of crap. But I gotta let you know something, right? Whether you're here or not, the Army will keep rolling along. So obviously do everything that you can to be successful, but not at the expense of your family. Your family is the most important thing in your life, right? The Army is just a means to pay bills, sense of purpose, all that good stuff, right? All the monetary things that you could get from being a service member, but be there for your family. Do not neglect your family because of lack of production. I've already seen a ton of USAREC active duty recruiters on this one page talking about how various commands are mandating extended hours, weekends, and making unnecessary threats for things that we as recruiters cannot impact or change. Like, I do not understand that about leadership. If your leadership, I'll say this, if you have a leader that goes kind when the going gets tough, you've got the right leader. If you have a leader that starts with the toxic, unnecessary threats and micromanaging every last detail of everything that you freaking do, you have a horrible leader. In fact, they're not a leader, they're a boss. There's a difference between a boss and a leader, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. So with that being said, again, take care of your family. Be there for your family. This job is not worth your mental sanity, right? Hopefully your leadership understands that these are things that are beyond us, right? These are not decisions made by us, not anything that we can possibly impact at all at our level. As a recruiter, don't be upset by the results that you didn't get by the work that you did. Be productive, be at work when you're at work, and when you're home, be at home. If you don't have to work late, don't work late. Obviously, we have to follow what our leadership tells us, but take care of you and take care of your family. Whew, I almost forgot about these massive updates to the medical exam that I think has the potential to significantly impact applicants processing MEPS. So with that being said, there is a pilot program that all MEPS are participating in, which is called I'm gonna read this, I don't wanna jack it up, but all the links of everything I discussed in this video are down in the description area, right? So the pilot program for the NMSE, or the Near Muscular Skeletal Exam, again, link down below, right, of a YouTube video explaining it. I also have video links that talk about the health.mil, which will explain the MHS Genesis program as a regular service member, to include another video link that will talk about for like a whole hour about MHS Genesis, right? So all these links are down below. But the biggest thing is that under normal circumstances, US MEPCOM policy would normally conduct height and weight and body fat calculations in your underwear. The new update, part of the pilot program, is you're gonna be fully clothed, but with no shoes, okay? So you will be barefoot, right? When you're conducting your height and weight, and they will subtract 3 pounds off of your total weight. But if this could potentially hinder a potential applicant processing, the MEPS guidance counselor or the liaison can request a special request to do it in your underwear to help the applicant, right? So if you're a tall mother flower and your clothes are heavy, and it's probably more than likely safe to say that your pair of jeans are probably more than 3 pounds, it would probably be in your best interest to get weighed and taped in your underwear. You know what I'm saying? However, one of these major updates that I think is a good move by MEPS, if I may say so myself, is that shippers from now on will not conduct height and weight prior to shipping. Previously, if you failed height and weight and your body fat percentage for your age and gender at authorized for processing, right? You would normally not ship, and they would tell you how long you have to be able to lose the amount of weight, right, before you could come back to reschedule your ship date. Now they've omitted that, they did away with it. Now it doesn't matter how much weight you gain. Now don't be stupid, don't gain weight, but you're not gonna like get prevented to ship out to training as a result. So that is a huge win for us. That's like the only good thing out of this whole thing, right? But again, all the links are down in the description area for you to check it out and learn for yourself. And with that being said, if you made it this far into the video, hit that like button, smash it if that's something you're into, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. With that being said, this will defend.